4:36 this morning. Let's get you up to speed on the stories you need to know to begin your day. Governor Doug Ducey has announced that Arizonans can expect to see a $300 unemployment boost as part of the newest wave of benefits. It's not as much as the unemployment benefits we saw immediately in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. This would pay $540 a week instead of the $600. People receiving unemployment can also expect retroactive payments from earlier this month. Arizonans may finally get an answer for the so-called Phoenix Lights that remain a hotbed for conspiracy theories from decades ago. The Pentagon says they're forming a task force to investigate UFOs. Previously, the U.S. Navy looked into the phenomenon. This after the State Intelligence Committee voted in June to provide public analysis of the encounters. And sad news over the weekend coming from the White House. President Trump says his younger brother, Robert, has died at the age of 71. The president said in a statement Saturday night, quote, "He was not just my brother, he was my best friend. He will be greatly missed, but we will meet again." Robert Trump was admitted to a Manhattan hospital with an unspecified illness. He's had health problems for months now. The president did visit him on Friday and says he died the next day. And now you're up to speed. Don't forget, you can always find the latest news on our website, 12news.com, or the free 12 News app.